This channel presents content that meticulously explores the substance of immortal literary works, widely known in the humanities, and it is maintained by the interest of our viewers and subscribers. Your subscription, likes, notifications, and providing sponsorships will be a great source of encouragement for the administrator's content creation. Hello! Today, we will take the time to closely appreciate the content of Franz Kafka's work, The Trial. Franz Kafka's The Trial, written between 1912 and 1914, is a central work showcasing his representative, symbolic elements and the essence of modern literature. Franz Kafka, 1883-1924, is a pivotal, German-speaking writer of the early 20th century and a representative figure in modern literature. Born in Prague and raised in a Jewish family, he primarily wrote in German. Kafka's works focused on themes of human anxiety, alienation, and isolation, often depicting a complex reality blended with irrational and dreamlike elements. His writings predominantly deal with human suffering, powerlessness, and social oppression, frequently raising existential and philosophical questions. His major works include the Metamorphosis, The Trial, Prozess, and The Castle. Although Kafka did not receive major recognition during his lifetime, his work profoundly influenced world literature posthumously. The Trial centers on the themes of anxiety, alienation, existential uncertainty, and social oppression commonly found in Kafka's work, vividly exposing these characteristics through the process of a judicial trial. The novel tells the story of the protagonist, Joseph K., who is arrested and prosecuted for an unknown crime, and the ensuing struggle he faces. Below, we will examine the main plot and the deep meanings emanating from this work. 1. Main plot summary. The main plot of Franz Kafka's The Trial is as follows. The arrest. The work begins when the protagonist, Joseph K., wakes up one morning to find he has been arrested. Crucially, the reason for his arrest or the nature of his crime is never disclosed. Joseph K. is completely unaware of any wrongdoing and is confused by the situation. Nevertheless, he resolves to assert his innocence and resolve the matter. Unable to accept the charge, he attempts to address the issue by going to court, but the process becomes increasingly absurd and illogical. The court and the lawyer. Joseph K. consults a lawyer for legal assistance regarding his case. However, the lawyer fails to provide a clear explanation of the case and attempts to handle it in an opaque manner. The lawyer deals with the case within a secretive and closed court system, and Joseph K. becomes increasingly confused by the process. The court takes on an increasingly abstract and bizarre atmosphere, making his efforts to resolve the case feel futile. The procedures and events within the court are unrealistic, plunging Joseph K. into an increasingly anxious and desperate situation. Joseph K. has life and the people around him. As the trial progresses, Joseph K.'s life undergoes significant changes. He becomes increasingly estranged from those around him, and his solitude deepens. His friends, family, and colleagues either maintain distance or treat him in ways he cannot understand, rather than offering help. Joseph K. feels alienated in his relationships and gradually realizes he cannot escape the court's irrational procedures or his predicament. The trial's progression and conclusion. As the story unfolds, Joseph K. becomes ever more entangled in the irrational and chaotic procedures of the court. He attempts to resolve the case, but the courts he encounters become increasingly incomprehensible, and the judgment seems perpetually postponed. Joseph K. visits the court multiple times, but all his attempts end in futility. He eventually realizes he can never change his fate within the legal system and faces a painful conclusion. In the end, before receiving the court's verdict, he fails to escape his situation and is ultimately executed. 2. The significance of Joseph K.'s charge. At the beginning of the work, Joseph K. is charged, but he never learns what crime he committed or why he was charged. This lack of clarity regarding the charge and the insufficient explanation of the case symbolize the core themes of the work. the powerlessness and uncertainty of human existence. Joseph K. asserts his innocence in court, but the situation becomes increasingly chaotic. He tries to understand the legal procedures, but gradually realizes it is impossible. Here, Kafka suggests how powerless the individual is within the large framework of society and the state. 3. The court as a metaphor for the social system. The trial Joseph K. endures is not merely depicted as a legal process. The court is portrayed as abstract and dreamlike rather than realistic. This court serves as a metaphor, representing the irrational and oppressive structures that humanity encounters within society and the state. Joseph K. becomes increasingly isolated there, and those around him withdraw rather than offering support. Society ignores him, and the law treats him merely as a case, illustrating how alienated and helpless an individual can become before numerous institutions and powers. 4. Existential alienation and human powerlessness. A key theme in the trial is the powerlessness and alienation of human existence. While asserting his innocence, Joseph K. increasingly fails to adapt to social norms and institutions, ultimately realizing he cannot escape his predicament. He seeks judgment from the court, yet the meaning and process of that judgment remain incomprehensible to him. His emotional and mental confusion symbolizes that his very existence is devalued and alienated. Joseph K.'s struggle emphasizes Kafka's philosophical message that human existence is fundamentally isolated and uncertain. 5. Religious and philosophical interpretation. The court and Joseph K.'s situation in the trial invite religious or philosophical interpretation. Questions about the existence of God, human sin, and salvation often appear in Kafka's work, and these elements are present here. Joseph K. seeks salvation in his situation, but it is ultimately denied to him. His solitude and despair seem to convey a message that divine redemption cannot be expected, or that even God is indifferent to human suffering. Furthermore, Joseph K.'s death symbolizes the futility and uncertainty of existence, and represents the climax of the ultimate human suffering and alienation. Conclusion? The main plot of the trial depicts Joseph K.'s process of being charged for an unknown reason, becoming isolated and powerless within the legal procedures and chaos, and ultimately reaching a tragic end. This story vividly exposes the irrational institutions and power structures that humanity encounters in modern society, and the feeling of isolation within social procedures that are beyond one's control. Kafka's The Trial powerfully reveals the powerlessness and uncertainty of human existence, and alienation within social systems and legal procedures. Through this work, Kafka demonstrates how an individual becomes trapped in an irrational social structure, growing increasingly isolated and powerless, unsure of what to do. Joseph K's endless struggle ultimately fails to reach a resolution, symbolically representing the fundamental instability and oppression of human existence. The trial is not merely a depiction of individual hardship, but is a crucial work that offers a deep reflection on the nature of human existence, and symbolically reveals the structural problems of modern society. Subscribing, liking, setting notifications, and providing sponsorships will be a great source of encouragement for the administrator's content creation. Thank you for watching.